Hey guys, welcome back. Today, we're talking about something super interesting. Why is it that so many people find it hard to think in English or reply quickly even when they understand what's being said? It's like, you know the words, you get what people are saying, but then it feels like your brain freezes up when you want to respond. One thing we've noticed is that a lot of English learners spend years on grammar when they start learning. They're studying rules but barely speaking. Think about it. Babies don't start with grammar books. They just listen and try out sounds until they make sense. If you start learning like a baby, you can start to think and respond naturally in English too. Sounds kind of magical, right? So, what's the secret here? What do babies do differently from adults when learning a language? Or do you think you're smarter than a baby? We're about to spill those secrets in today's episode. But first, here's a fun question for you and our dear listeners. How many English words do you think you need to know to master everyday conversation? The options are 1,000, 2,000, or 3,000 words. I'd say around 3,000 words. That sounds like a good number to cover most situations. We'll reveal the answer at the end of the episode, so stick around. Let's talk about some common mistakes beginners make when learning English. One big one is spending too much time on grammar, especially in the early stages. This is something that comes up a lot in schools and textbooks. They're always pushing grammar rules from day one. You open a textbook and boom, grammar rules right in your face. But honestly, that's not how we naturally learn a language. Babies don't start with grammar lessons. They don't know what a verb or a noun is. They just hear how people speak. It's all about absorbing the language first. When beginners focus too much on grammar, it can actually slow them down. Grammar can be complicated and even frustrating sometimes, making people feel stuck because they're too worried about getting every rule perfect. And that frustration can make you lose motivation. I mean, who wants to be memorizing rules instead of actually talking? It's like trying to solve a puzzle instead of just having a conversation. Here's what beginners should do. Don't stress about grammar at the start. Instead, focus on listening and understanding how phrases flow together. Trust that you'll pick up on the patterns naturally, just like a baby does. Think of it as absorbing the language. The grammar will come to you over time once you're used to how sentences sound in real life. You'll find that a lot of grammar just starts to make sense once you've heard enough English. Let grammar take a backseat for now. In real conversations, it's way more important to understand and respond than to have perfect grammar. Now, let's move on to another common mistake: skipping listening practice. Babies spend months just listening before they even try to say a word. They're constantly observing and picking up on sounds, rhythms, and context. But in many language classes, there's not enough focus on listening. Students end up jumping straight into speaking and writing exercises without spending enough time just listening to how English really sounds. When you skip listening practice, you miss out on essential parts of the language like pronunciation, intonation, and even body language. Without that foundation, speaking can feel awkward because you don't have a natural feel for how sentences flow. Listening gives you a sense of rhythm and context. For beginners out there, make listening a daily habit. It doesn't have to be serious study. You could listen to podcasts, watch shows, or even just play English music in the background. Let English surround you. The more you listen, the easier it gets to understand and pick up new words and phrases. It will help you start thinking in English too. Another secret of language learning is repetition and imitation. Babies learn by hearing the same words and phrases over and over. They repeat what they hear and mimic the sounds, even if they're not perfect at first. So, for anyone learning English, don't be afraid to repeat what you hear. If you're watching a show or a YouTube video, try pausing it, repeating what was just said, and then listening again to compare. And if you want to get really serious about it, record yourself mimicking and then listen to your recording to catch little details like intonation or rhythm. This way, you'll start noticing the small things that make English sound more natural. Another tool you can use daily is dictation. There are free websites with tons of dictation exercises where you listen to a sentence, write it down, and then check your answer. This exercise trains both your listening and writing skills. And by writing what you hear, you'll get better at recognizing common phrases and sounds. It builds your vocabulary and helps you understand how words are pronounced in real conversations. Plus, it's a low-pressure way to practice without needing a speaking partner. To sum this part up, don't just read textbooks. Mimic the sounds, repeat the phrases you hear, and make it a habit to listen and repeat every day. Let's talk about some vocabulary that can help. For instance, rhythm is the pattern or flow of sounds in speech or music. In language, it's the way words and sentences rise and fall as people speak. Paying attention to rhythm helps you sound more natural. And absorb means to take something in fully. When you absorb language, you let it sink in naturally without forcing yourself to memorize rules. If you read in English every day, you'll start to absorb new words without even trying. Intonation is similar to rhythm, but helps express feelings, questions, or statements. For example, notice how the voice often rises at the end of English questions. And mimic means to copy or imitate someone's behavior or way of speaking. Kids often mimic their parents' speech patterns when they're learning to talk. When it comes to responding like a baby, it's really simple but super effective. Think about how babies start talking. They don't use perfect sentences. They might just say milk when they want milk, or ball when they want to play. They just go for it, even if it's not perfect. For English learners, start the same way by using basic responses and conversations. You don't have to worry about saying long, perfect sentences. Just start with a word or a short phrase. If someone asks, "How's your day?" you could just say, "Good" or "pretty good." As you get more comfortable, add a little more each time, like, "Good, I went to the park today." This is how you build up your confidence. The key is not to let fear hold you back. Many people are afraid to speak because they think they'll make mistakes or sound silly, but most people just want to understand you. Simple responses are completely normal in everyday English. Even native speakers don't always use long sentences. So if you're learning, respond with whatever feels comfortable and just go for it. Another fun tip, having a parent figure in language learning can really make a difference. Just like babies have parents who talk to them and correct them gently, language learners can benefit from someone who acts as a guide, a native speaker, or a patient teacher. Look for a language exchange partner, someone who speaks English and wants to learn your language, or find a tutor who can correct you gently and speak in a natural, simple way. With a parent figure, you feel safe to make mistakes, and they can give you real-time feedback that's hard to get when practicing on your own. Our final tip for learning like a baby is to narrate your day. Babies are constantly hearing people narrate what's going on around them, like putting on shoes or look at the dog, which helps them understand language and context. You can do the same by describing your own actions in English, even if you're just talking to yourself. For example, if you're making coffee, say, "I'm making coffee." Or if you're walking outside, say, "It's sunny today." Simple sentences like these help you practice forming sentences and using everyday vocabulary. It gets you in the habit of thinking in English without feeling like you're studying. Let's quickly define a few key terms. Narrate, to describe or talk about what's happening, often by telling a story or explaining events as they occur. Memorize, to learn something so well that you can remember it without looking at it again. Instead of memorizing vocabulary lists, try using those words in sentences so they stick better. Sneak in, to do something secretly or subtly, like sneaking in English practice by describing what you're doing as you go through your day. Overthink, to think too much or worry too much about something, making it feel more complicated than it really is. Don't overthink it, just try speaking, even if you make mistakes. Before we go, let's reveal the answer to our quiz question from the start of the episode. We asked, what is the minimum number of English vocabulary words you need to understand around 90% of everyday conversations? You might guess 3,000 words, but the answer is actually just 2,000 words. Research shows that around 2,000 words cover about 90% of the vocabulary used in everyday conversations. These are the most commonly used words, so mastering them helps you get by in most situations. Of course, if you want to talk about a specific topic like medicine or technology, you'll need extra vocabulary in that area. But for day-to-day chats, 2,000 words are enough to connect with people. Keep practicing, enjoy the process, and remember, learn like a baby. We'll see you next time with more tips to help you on your English journey. Bye, everyone!